What is happening, everybody, and welcome. This is episode number 70 of RizzoCast. I'm Stephen Rissotto along with Jasper, Lindsey, and we are booming into the second half of the Major League Baseball season. Jasper, playoff race is happening, players coming off the DL. We just had the All-Star game. How are you feeling? What's going on with you?
I'm just excited for what's going to happen in the NL East. And even the NL West. Honestly, just the entire National League. I just can't tell which teams are contenders and which aren't. The NL East especially, but it's just going to be a fun ride because things are going to get crazy. We already saw today, like the Mets getting messed up at PNC. Crazy things are just going to happen, and I'm really excited for the second half.
I am too, and we're going to get into some of the previews for the second half coming up in just a bit. But as I mentioned, the All-Star game has come and gone. And we saw the home run derby, we saw the All-Star game. It's just a big event, and I think that personally it's still the best All-Star game in sports. And if you look at the ratings, it did pretty well. I think it got 1 million less viewers than the NBA finals on the same night, which is incredible. I mean, that's incredible. But the All-Star game for me it's the big one in all the sports.
Yeah, and despite Fox and Major League Baseball's effort to mess up something so simple, it's the fact that it still pulled in viewers is pretty incredible. And we talked about this, you mentioned this earlier, but our biggest beef with the home run derby is the fact that they didn't even show us the distances, and they keep trying to push these StatCast editions of broadcast, and it's just ridiculous because you don't have enough WAR and wins above, or I already said wins of WAR, but yeah, you don't have any of these crazy stat nerds that just love baseball like that. You have people who just want to see guys hit the ball far and know the distance.
Yeah, and I'm very disappointed about the distance. I mean, other than that guy falling on his face, which was great,
Yeah.
on the Matt Olson's during Matt Olson's round. I mean, people want to see the distances. I mean, that was probably the biggest disappointment for me too. Um, Especially in past All-Star games, the ball would land and it would have the arrow point, the little arrow marker with the
Yeah,
distance.
exactly.
And it was so perfect. And someone hit one, I think might have been Alonso, or I don't know. I don't know who hit it, but and in passing, the broadcaster said, "Oh, that one was 510 feet," and it's like, wait, which one? Because there's home runs going everywhere, and you can't tell which ones. Some are going far, some are, everything's happening at once. They didn't even show a replay of, and I know they can't with the timer, but they didn't even show a replay of the one that went 500 and something feet. It's
Yeah, and
crazy.
it was hilarious just because they had kind of that split screen where they were showing opponents and interviews. And then the second they actually interviewed someone, I'm pretty sure they interviewed Cedric Mullins during Trey Mancini's round, and we never even saw Cedric Mullins. So it was just Cedric Mullins talking, and it's like, what does this guy even look like? We're watching Trey Mancini hit. It just made no sense to me whatsoever, and that's just the state of baseball. They try their best to figure it out, but I just don't think they will.
The timer is so much better though.
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely.
So much better than the whole 10 outs thing that we've become accustomed to for the history of the Derby until a few years ago. But there's a few big storylines during the Derby. I mean, Ohtani just coming back in the first round there. That was pretty insane. Trevor Story with the upset of Joey Gallo. That's pretty insane. Yeah. But I mean, Trey Mancini, that's got to be number one. I know Pete Alonso won the thing and he did it, with ease. Still had a minute left. Yeah, but Mancini is the big story for me.
Yeah, absolutely. No, and
yeah, go ahead.
Trey Mancini, awesome for him to it's awesome for Baltimore to have a guy because I feel like they haven't really had a guy in a while where they can really rally behind him. Even when Chris Davis was kind of hitting all those home runs, he fell off pretty hard and he didn't really get the loyalty. He honestly became a meme because of how bad he was, and it's nice for Baltimore just to have someone to root for finally.
Who's the last great? Was it Adam Jones? Did Adam Jones have that kind of pull?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Adam Jones,
Manny
Machado, yeah, those guys, because those were some pretty good teams out in Baltimore. They were always they never really had a true championship window, but they had teams that could get into the playoffs and at least compete. That was also those years when Toronto had those great teams that would just everyone in their order could hit home runs, so they always run into them and they get eliminated. But yeah, it's nice for Baltimore to have some guy to root for. And who's better than Trey Mancini? I mean, what, this guy had colon cancer a year ago, stage 3 at that, and he's back in the plan and hitting home runs. It's crazy.
Yes, yeah. Like you mentioned a year ago, chemotherapy, and like it's easy to underestimate like the power of like being young and stuff, but still, like, I mean, you can make the argument that it's easier to bounce back, but like the highest level of baseball, the national stage.
Yeah.
I mean, he probably didn't know it at the time, but like, I mean, that's inspiring a whole ton of kids who, either have dealt with cancer or have cancer or in remission. And I mean, it's pretty crazy what Trey Mancini did. And again, back to Alonso. I mean, this guy's made for the home run derby. I mean, he didn't even care that he wasn't at the All-Star game and he wasn't a selected All-Star. He went off. It was pretty amazing to watch. And his pitcher, the pitcher, they did the overlay of his pitches, and it was the Mets bench coach. I'm forgetting his name, but wow. I mean,
Joss.
Joss, that's right. Joss pitched to him, and it was amazing. So, what did you kind of take away from Pete Alonso's effort there?
I mean, hey, that's just the polar bear, man. I mean, we kind of all forgot about him because he was kind of stuck on this Mets team that can't decide whether they want to compete or not. And he did have a slow start. I mean, he was one of those guys who got kind of hit hard, but like not only the injury bug, but just the fact that hitting was down this year and he wasn't having the average. He wasn't getting the ball out as much. But I mean, hey, Pete is great for the game. It was hilarious when he hit that kid and just stepped out of the box and started dancing. That was incredible. I mean, he's just one of the great personalities of the game, and it's nice to see these personalities shine on national stage and have people watch, like get to know these players. It's just great for the game, I think.
You know what else is great for a game? A All-Star game in Colorado. How cool was that?
But also, I was surprised Pete didn't get fatigued. I mean, I think we really saw like the Coors effect, not only like the fact that the ball was flying, but the fact that you're so high, like guys got fatigued a lot easier, got harder to breathe. Like, I think you saw even Trevor Story at times was like just trying to catch his breath while he's taking swings. So I think it was a fun event. It was great for the game, and it was nice to kind of have a sense of normalcy where we got a home run derby at all this year.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I look forward to Pete Alonso participating in more of those because he's the guy to beat right now. But to the All-Star game, and the National League never wins these. I mean, but obviously everybody's pointing at the mic situation, and they mic'd up players like most innings. Does that like interest you at all? Because I know for me, I think it's good that it's happening now, like in the All-Star game, and not like down the stretch in a pennant race. Like that's better. You don't want to be talking to like an outfielder, like game 162, and it's important. So I'm glad they're doing it during the All-Star game.
Yeah, well, I think it's great for like All-Star game, spring training, kind of when games don't matter and guys are playing a little more loose. But I think the problem is the guys they choose to mic up. Like Xander Bogaerts, I remember he was hitting and he just kind of seemed like just so fed up with Joe Buck. And was it John Smoltz on the call too?
Yes.
Yeah. So he just kind of seemed like this is such a waste of my time. Why am I doing this? But when you can get guys like Chris Bryant, I mean, he probably didn't want to do it because they just berated him about getting traded. But you get guys like Chris Bryant, you get the fun personalities of the game out there. I mean, it was cool. And obviously Liam Hendricks on a hot mic was awesome.
Whose idea was that?
I don't know, but Fox paid a very nice fine to the FCC.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. No, it ended up being like gold television. But like, honestly, what was Fox thinking putting a pitcher who, I mean, you don't want to suck in the All-Star game. So you are trying to get outs. So why would you put him? It's just mind boggling to me, but.
No, but the Aussie pitchers too, man, like him and Grant Balfour, like they're pretty quick on the draw when it comes to cursing. So I don't know.
Yeah, no, it was definitely it was a fun event though. But yeah, imagine like being at the plate and like you hear someone saying what's coming and you're like, shut up. Or you hear like, come on, you got to come on.
Dude, the fact that Joe Buck always like kind of baits him to keep talking is the most cringy part of it. Cause it's like, Oh, can't you give us something? I'm Joe Buck.
Yeah, but they're blaming Joe Buck. But like, I mean, if it were up to him, I don't think that he would want the players mic'd up.
No,
I
his
mean,
job as a journalist is to get them to talk, and they're not talking to him. Like, what can you do? So that's what I'm saying. Just mic up the right guys.
yeah, no, 100%.
And don't ask about trades. We were talking about this earlier. Don't ask guys who are on the block about getting traded. They don't want to talk about that.
And it just becomes an awkward situation.
Exactly.
Completely. But
unless you're Big Poppy and you can kind of make the joke about it and like make the guy feel, and that's just Big Poppy being Big Poppy. But like when Fox says, "Hey, ask Chris Bryant getting traded," he's not gonna answer you with like that's also a guy who just loves where he plays already, and the fact that he's getting traded already, like I can't see Chris Bryant in a jersey other than the Cubs.
Me neither.
So that's something he clearly doesn't want to talk about. So just avoid the topic, man.
Yeah, no, 100%. I agree. But the cool thing about the All-Star game is, and the cool thing about baseball is, it's a world game, and we saw a Japanese guy get the win. We saw a Dominican guy get the MVP, and we saw an Australian get the save. So that's pretty awesome, and we definitely love to see that for sure. And it was the Shohei Ohtani show. We didn't even mention him. We mentioned him on like everything ever. And
well, yeah, you mentioned viewership earlier. What's the viewership in the US, or do they count international too?
I don't know. That's a good question. Because I mean, you had to have
a lot more views from Asia with Shohei on the mound, and even Australia probably.
Yeah, home run derby. And again, that's the great thing about Shohei Ohtani. And Stephen A. Smith had a very ignorant comment. Just, I think that was just him trying to get his feet where, and we didn't plan talking about this, but I guess it's a nice segue.
Stephen A's not a baseball guy, and they try and get him to talk baseball. It's never going to end well. I mean, what? Max Kellerman was probably okay. First off, he's on a debate show, so he has to take the other side of the debate no matter what. And that's just, I don't know. We can get into how ESPN prompts are stupid all day, but I think it was stupid. And the fact that people care about what Stephen A says when it comes to baseball.
Well, yeah, it's that and the two sports that Stephen A is fixated on, the international, the international number of, or I should say the number of players that are like international and speak Spanish and speak maybe Japanese, speak different languages. It's completely down compared to baseball.
So I mean, basketball, you can make the case. Basketball is pretty international at this point, but football, definitely not a lot of international involvement in that one.
Yeah. So, I mean, there is, and Stephen A said afterwards when he apologized, hey, when we talk baseball, we don't talk about Shohei Ohtani because when we talk baseball, our numbers go down. But if you're ESPN, you should be talking about all the sports. It doesn't matter. I mean, that's your job. It doesn't matter what people think about baseball, but I guess now in the world of viewership, I guess it does. So
do you remember when like Baseball Tonight and MLB Tonight were flagship shows and now they're just jokes?
Yeah. Now Baseball Tonight's like one day a week, maybe. Yeah. It sucks. It honestly sucks. And, Max Kellerman, I think his first sport and his favorite sport's baseball. And, it's, I don't know. It's definitely a shame. ESPN is, as my Uncle Pat would say, if he's listening, he told me this the other day, it's a shell of what it used to be. So, and Stephen A. Smith, just an ignorant comment. I like there's different players in sports where they don't need to say a whole lot. It's part of their image. Derek Jeter didn't need to say a whole lot. Shohei Ohtani, I mean, just play. Mike Trout, same thing. Doesn't need to say a whole lot for him to be great.
Yeah.
So that's definitely not fun. I didn't want to talk about that, but
no, absolutely. Like, it's just stupid for Stephen A to say that in the first place. It shouldn't even be a topic of conversation. Shohei is the face of baseball.
At this point, yeah. Somebody who wasn't at the All-Star game, who is now going on the disabled list for the first place New York Mets, Jacob deGrom, the best pitcher in the game right now. And honestly, when I saw this, and he's basically hurt now like every other start. But when I saw this, I immediately thought of Sandy Koufax and how Sandy Koufax was out of the game at 30 years old, 32 years old because of his elbow. And Jacob deGrom, not his elbow, but his forearm. But I mean, basically, it's the same thing with these injuries. I mean, one thing leads to another. And it is concerning for a Mets rotation that is supposed to be great. and always is supposed to be great, but is banged up a little bit. So, are you concerned at all that DeGrom is on the shelf and we're going to see a DL stint for him?
Not really. It's 10 days.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you're losing him for a week. You're losing him for a couple starts. But if you get down at all, I don't think it's that hard to make a ground in the NL East, right? I mean, no team seems like they're locked in. I mean, obviously Atlanta's going to make whatever moves they have to at the deadline to get back in first place and try and prove that they are the team to be in this division. But I think the Mets are fine, honestly. Their problems stem from hitting, first and foremost. Pitching has never been a problem for them. I mean, you honestly forget they have Marcus Stroman, and you forget they have I don't know, Carlos Carrasco and Noah Syndergaard are both still hurt, but you forget they have guys that are just pitching well and are like losing games. Like they have bad win-loss records, but you look at their ERA and they're like sub-3. So I think the Mets I think they really wanted to hire Carlos Beltran, and having to settle for Luis Rojas hurt them, if we're being completely honest.
Yeah, that's definitely a fair argument. For sure. And Taiwan Walker's had a good year, but there's not much depth outside of that. So I don't know how much you could trust Noah Syndergaard in a big spot right now. Obviously, they're not gonna I mean, him
They're
coming back.
get.
Yeah, him coming back in a playoff race is just weird. Same thing with Carrasco. I mean, automatically they're not favored at all in a postseason series because of their pitching. And if they have DeGrom starting twice a series, that changes everything.
Right.
So, I mean, you hope he's healthy. Baseball hopes he's healthy. But yeah, Syndergaard.
DeGrom though is the fact that he throws a 90-mile-per-hour slider. Like, and that's the same thing with Syndergaard. Like, I could have sworn my uncle dropped this take on me when Syndergaard and DeGrom first broke in the league, and they were throwing like these crazy 90-mile-per-hour sliders, and he was like, "Yeah, that's not going to hold up." And we've seen it; their arms can't hold up because that pitch, you got to snap it, and if you're snapping it and you're trying to get it as fast as possible, you're gonna hurt your arm. You know, it's just gonna happen.
Yeah, slider is definitely the worst pitch on your arm, and I've always wondered, and I think it's true. I don't know, but I've always wondered if velocity has anything to do with the rise in Tommy John surgery. I think that there's not enough data, but I mean, I I I think so. I mean, I would think so. I mean, it makes sense. I mean, and plus, I think a part of it is that all the injury bugs among pitchers. There's two things. Number one is relevant about this season. Guys did not work hard last season in terms of innings, just because of the shortened 60-game season. And also starting pitchers only go 5. So if you throw 5 innings, it's considered a success. So there's guys coming out of the bullpen and they're told, hey, air it out for this inning. Just give us everything you have, air it out. And then, next night, hey, remember what you did yesterday? Do it again, air it out. And it, builds up with 65 games appeared in, and boom, Tommy John. So, I mean, it's not a surprise at all. I mean, they're just taught to leave everything out there. Starting pitchers, if you're going so short in the games, you probably don't need anything for the 8th inning because you won't get there. So just empty it out now. So it's wild. It really is.
Honestly, it seems like the middle relief pitcher is probably the most expendable position in pro sports. Like, you see different guys hopping up there every day and guys get hurt. It's like, honestly, if you're not a setup man or you're not a closer, you're never safe. You're always pitching for your life. So you're going to give everything you got. And if you get hurt doing that, you're kind of screwed.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. Yeah, and you're always bouncing around the league too. I mean, just guys all over the place. Hunter Strickland's been I just looked at where Hunter Strickland is. I thought he was with the Rays. He's not. Angels for like a little bit, and now he's with the Brewers. I mean, it's just middle relievers just have the raw end of the stick. That's what it is. I mean, they're big league arms, but they're just expendable, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
What do you think about the Mets black jerseys? Because I know when I mentioned we are going to talk about this, you groaned, but I like them. What do you think?
I like the nostalgia factor. I've never liked the look. And just Nike's streak of jerseys lately and redoing them has not been great. I mean, we talked about the City Connect being atrocious and even the All-Star jerseys being atrocious, but I mean, it's classic Mets. If the Mets can play well in them, I think it's great. If they play poorly in the blacks, I think that city is going to burn down.
Yeah, no, I just get shades of David Wright wearing the black David Wright and Jose Reyes. By
Not
the way,
Piazza even.
yeah, Piazza. By the way, electric left side of the infield.
Oh yeah.
David Wright and Jose Reyes. Are you kidding me? That is like people forget how good those guys were, especially Jose Reyes. Like we know David Wright was great, but Jose Reyes was extremely good.
Yeah, are
Like,
we gonna say are we ready to drop the take that he's the last speedster to bat above 300?
ooh, I'd have to dig into that. That'd be a good show topic. Different, we should do like
Yeah.
an award show type thing. That'd be cool. But yeah, Jose Reyes, yeah, definitely 283 hitter. I'm looking at his page now, but with the Mets, a career 282 with the Mets, 283 lifetime. But those years where he was like really, really good in stealing all those bases, I mean, 78 steals in 2007. You just don't see anything
Crazy.
close to it
Yeah,
anymore.
exactly.
So just wanted to give Jose Reyes and David Wright a quick shout out. Let's stay in that division. And let's talk about the Braves for a second because we talked about DeGrom being out for a few starts possibly, but here's someone that's going to be out for a whole year. And it's one of baseball's most gifted players, Ronald Acuna Jr., tore his ACL trying to make a running catch at the warning track against the Marlins. And Jazz Chisholm ended up getting a inside the park home run out of it. Just a really unfortunate situation. So he'll be out for the year. And a guy who was looking like a possible MVP candidate and a big part of that Braves team. It sucks to see. You never want to see anybody get hurt, let alone the best players in the game. Um, this sucks, Jasper. I'm running out of words, but it's definitely not the ideal situation.
Well, also, if you're Atlanta, that's now two outfielders. And given what Marcelo Duna is a douchebag and deserves to be out of the league right now, but if you're the Braves, you had two kind of guys who we were talking about being MVP candidates coming into the year in your outfield, and now they're both gone. So, I mean, you traded for Jock Peterson, but they're going to need to make some more moves, I think. But it's time for Ozzie Albies to definitely step up and kind of put himself as the big bopper in this lineup. Freddie Freeman too. I mean, there's no doubt these guys are still going to put up runs, but losing probably one of the league MVPs if Tatis got hurt to an ACL for the year is it's tough. There's no way around it. And especially in a time where you're 3 games out of first place and you're looking towards the second half to really get things going, this is just a huge step in the wrong direction.
Their outfield sucks. There's no way around it. I mean, they had probably one of the best outfields in the game, definitely the best corner outfield in the game. With Ozuna having a very good year last year and signed to a big deal this offseason. But you've all of a sudden gone to maybe the bottom. I mean, the bottom of tier,
Here,
the bottom tier of outfielders.
They're outfielders right now. Jock Peterson,
Mm-hmm.
Guillermo Heredia, Ender Enciarte, Ehire Adrianza, and Abraham Almonte.
It's not good.
It's not good.
Not good. And again, we mentioned the wildness of the National League East, and it continues. It really does. But, oh, man, that is such a big drop-off. Like, in Jock Peterson, it's great, and we're going to talk about this now, too. And Jock's now played in a few games with them, and he's homered once, I think. But, that's the first of the Cubs' big fire sale, and, they signed him this offseason hoping that he could hit lefties. Basically hit lefties and be a more athletic version of Kyle Schwarber.
Be an everyday guy.
Be an everyday guy for the first time. Dodgers never let him face, left-handed pitching, and it worked out a little bit. It was kind of average offensively, but it's going to be interesting to see what he does with the Braves.
Definitely.
But is he enough? Is he enough, though?
No, they're going to make a move. They'll probably try and go after Mitch Haniger. This might be a year.
That's a good one. Yeah, Mitch Haniger would be a good pickup for them.
This might be the year where the Braves just kind of pack it in. Maybe we even see them make a move for the future. I don't know, but I think there's no way they compete with just Freddie Freeman and Ozzie Albies holding down that lineup.
Yeah, that's a good point. I didn't even think about them maybe taking a step back. But I think there's also a lot of talent besides those guys. Like Albies has had a decent year. Dansby Swanson, I've always wondered why he's underperformed at the big league level.
Yeah,
I've never
exactly. We're waiting for Dansby to break out. If there's ever a year for Dansby to have himself a second half, it's this year.
And Austin Riley's just hit the cover off the baseball this year. So he's a bright spot. And Freeman's a free agent at the end of the year. So who knows what they do with him?
He's going to get locked up. There's no way Freddie leaves Atlanta.
I think he's their Buster Posey. But I would have thought that it would have already happened by now. And, Charlie Morton's days of your staff with Max Fried hanging in there with the, almost 4.3 ERA. There's still a lot on. We have Ian Anderson's great. I should mention him. He's on the shelf right now, but he's great. But I am definitely concerned about Mike Soroka. Hopefully he gets healthy soon.
Very concerned about Soroka. Drew Smiley, he's been a bright spot for him.
Looking at it now closely, I haven't looked at it this closely. I just looked at last year and said, wow, they had great talent. Why are they underperforming this year? But now I could see why, just injuries and inconsistencies and, stuff happens, but, maybe they could still turn it around and, win like 11 of 12 or something and go on a roll like that.
Their bullpen isn't horrible. That's the other thing. They have a good bullpen, kind of solid. So yeah, I don't think they're going to overtake the Phillies or the Mets at this point in the year.
Yeah, what do you think about the Phillies? And I guess we'll start going into our preview here. Phillies to me are the most intriguing team out of anybody in the National League. And I use intriguing like confusing kind of because they're 500 and
they've won 7 of their last 10, so they're trending in the right direction.
Yeah, and Joe Girardi is a really good manager in my opinion, and
absolutely.
We overlook them so much. I don't know why. I for some reason I still view them as Gabe Kapler's Phillies. I just don't know why. I still view them as Gabe Kapler's Phillies with Rhys Hoskins and these are good. Rhys Hoskins, Gene Segura, Didi Gregorius.
They're one of the best teams in baseball.
They are.
Like, I don't know. I think they're definitely going to be big buyers at the deadline. Brad Miller and Andrew McCutchen. Talk about some steals for them, though, man. Just out of nowhere. Travis Jankowski's looked good for them. Gene Segura is just doing his thing, Mr. Consistency. But they're going to need to make a move at shortstop because Sir Didi has not been it this year. 222, 8 home runs, 27 RBIs, 683 OPS, so he's not horrible, but just if you're the Phillies, you need to make a move because you can't be average, and you got Zach Wheeler and Aaron Nola leading your rotation. So you have two guys who, if you can put up some runs, those are guaranteed playoff wins if you have Wheeler and Nola taking them out. Yeah,
and if they're contenders, I think they might need one more starter maybe, and maybe a few more relievers. They had like the worst bullpen ever last year, so probably they might be in the hunt for a bullpen arm. But also underrated player, Bryce Harper. Bryce Harper is underrated now. What do you think about that?
I'm still not going to say he's actually, I guess he is underrated, right? But it's crazy to think he's a $330 million player who we're calling underrated.
I know it's great, but nobody even realizes he has a 903 OPS. It's amazing. Like nobody's talking about Bryce Harper. Why?
No one's talking about Bryce Harper. It's because that $330 million. It's also because Philly fans hate their own team. So you're never going to hear a compliment from a Philly journalist on Bryce Harper. Because he has 34 RBIs. That's the crazy part to me. The fact that Bryce Harper isn't driving in runs, but you think we see Bryce Harper in the leadoff spot?
Well, let's see. We could figure out where Joe Girardi has hit him in the order. I think he's been near the top. He might be 2 or 3. Let's see. It looks like this season he started 55 games in the 3-hole and 14 games in the 4-hole. So he's only hit 3 or 4. So
I would love to see him do like what the Astros did with George Springer for a while, hit him lead off, let him just kind of see the ball. And I don't know. This Philly team is confusing. I think they get it done though. I think they got a lot of momentum coming into this second half, and with the Braves looking tough, and the Mets haven't completely collapsed yet, but I know it's coming. I think this might be the Phillies division this year.
Yeah, I could see it. And I just got reminded. Remember when Schwarber like hit leadoff? They moved him earlier in the year and just went off.
Yeah,
And remember when
exactly.
Anthony Rizzo, same thing, had that
Yeah,
big
exactly.
home run
Bryce
streak
Harper
hitting.
lead box electric.
I could see it. I could definitely see it. What other division? I mean, I guess the NL Centrals. I really like the Brewers. I think at this point, it's
I like Brooke too.
I don't think they've
And you know
even
what
gotten
the
hot yet,
worst
to
is?
be honest.
Yeah, exactly. They haven't gone hot, and you know who else hasn't gone hot? Yelich. Once Yelich gets going, and I mean he's coming off an injury, that's tough. But once Yelich gets going, that lineup is just gonna scare people, man.
Yeah, Yelich. I completely agree. I think they're underrated. I think the big thing about them is how good their pitching is. It's amazing how good they're like. If
Yeah,
you run into the Brewers in a postseason series and you have Woodruff game one, Corbin Burns game two, Peralta game three, that's those are three all-stars right there you're running into, and you have Josh Hader at the back end. Woo, that's scary.
that is scary. And even Brent Suter, for whatever reason, has 9 wins this year.
I know.
At
Yeah,
the
yeah. It'd be interesting to see where they add.
89 miles per hour, still showing that the slow guys can get it done.
Yeah, I'd be interested to
I
see
mean,
where they add.
Woodruff, Burns, Peralta. I think they get a bat, and I think if they get a bat, they lock up the NL Central.
I think I'm going to agree with you. Yeah, they definitely do need a bat, and it looks like maybe corner infielder, first or second. I mean,
Yeah,
Keston Hira has just been up and down. Um, has not hit big league pitching at all, and Travis
Travis
Shaw.
Shaw not the starter.
Yeah, and he's hurt. So maybe they get a
Yeah.
corner. Chris Bryant to the to the rival Milwaukee Bird. No, that
Nah,
wouldn't
no way they
happen.
should have been.
That wouldn't happen.
No,
I'm just throwing something out
no.
there. He was the first third baseman that came to mind.
Like, I mean, the Brewers, it's weird for me, man, because they're kind of these teams in the offseason where they don't really get guys, but they get guys somehow. Like Avasiel Garcia finally kind of living up to that $10 million they paid him last year. Vogelbach, I mean, he's not great, but he still mashes. And Colton Wong, that's one of my favorite signings of the offseason because he has just played stellar second base and he's hit the ball. Like he's gone on base for them. He's doing what a second baseman should do.
Yeah, 100%. And maybe I mean, Jackie Bradley Jr.'s been not good. So
Was JBJ has Jackie Bradley Jr. ever been consistent?
not like this though. Not bad like this. I mean, he's hitting 169. I mean,
Scary part is on the team in average.
oh God, I know but yeah, Brewers definitely a fun team, and I think they're overlooked because how good the Cardinals have been like the past decade. Like everybody just looks at them as I don't think the Cardinals have had a losing season in like 15, 16 years, which is
They're
crazy.
the San Antonio Spurs of baseball. They're just Mr. Consistent.
Yeah, but I think they're definitely out of it. Nine games out. I mean, that should be the nail in the coffin.
I don't know. They could go on a run. The Cardinals seem to always find a way to go on a run. Matt Carpenter will go off again for whatever reason.
For whatever reason, I like
They'll
that.
have some random player we completely forgot about that's still playing or still like kind of left over from those runs in the 2000s. Like Adam Wainwright will go on a streak of 5 wins in a row at age 42. It's crazy.
It's crazy. Yeah. And then the West Giants still hanging on for dear life. Dodgers are back one game. I mean, that's and the Padres still 5.5. I mean, I think there's going to be 3 postseason teams. I mean, Giants' odds of making the playoffs is like 90% now. So I think they pretty much have punched their ticket. They're a wild card spot. They're up 5.5 games in a wild card spot. So, I mean, that's pretty much a given. I think that 3 teams are coming out, but Padres got to get it going. I mean, and there's some really bad injuries right now in the West with pitching. Kershaw, Snell, Darvish, they're all out.
Even okay, I'm not even going to give Snell the benefit of the doubt of being injured. He has sucked this year. Get off stream and get back into pitching mode because, dude, you are not playing well, man.
It's the mystery of what happened with Kevin Cash. Ever since that happened.
Well, no, even before that, like he definitely regressed after he won a Cy Young. And maybe that just wasn't him having the same hunger he had when he first entered the league. But yeah, I don't know. It's kind of weird. And then Chris Paddock is just a nightmare for the Padres. Talk about the biggest tease of all time. What a rookie year. And then you just come in and you just like give up 5 runs in the 3rd inning pretty much every start.
Them and the Dodgers need an arm. And I think it's Jose Barrios. I think they're going to go after him. Barrios, maybe Max Scherzer.
Barrios, though.
I don't think the Giants want to give up any part of their future, to be honest, because this was kind of a year that they didn't think that they'd be competitive anyways. Mm-hmm. So I think if they could, I think the Giants' path right now, if they're going to add something, would be through rentals.
Yeah.
They could get a Max Scherzer and not even have to give up that much.
Well, how much club control does Barrios have? Because if he has 2 years, that's pretty much a rental, and I don't think you're going to get as much value for him.
It might be 2 or 3.
Yeah.
So I think they sell high on Barrios, and I think the Twins are definitely trying to get big league talent in return. But
speaking of Twins, what a collapse!
Oh man, yeah. Let's jump over to the American. What a collapse for this team, and I mean, I talked about it with Brandon Warren, who said that the Twins were just as surprised. I mean, nobody thought they would be this bad. I mean, they're supposed to get one of the wild card spots in the Central or in the American League and be second in the Central, and it just hasn't happened. I mean, I'm expecting Cleveland to sell too.
As they should. I mean, Cleveland, and we were talking about it earlier. I mean, they've clearly won the Francisco Lindor trade as of right now.
Well, what's wrong? Like, why haven't they done anything yet? Like, they traded Lindor, Kluber's gone, but why? Like, if they traded Lindor, okay, so if you're a team that's selling and you trade off one piece, and it's a guy like Francisco Lindor, who's your cornerstone franchise player, everything has to fall after that. I don't care. Like, there's no excuse not to trade Jose Ramirez or, Shane Bieber or Plesac, or maybe that's the reason they're hanging on, because they do have a surplus of young arms with Tristan McKenzie and Plesac and Savali. I mean, maybe now that makes sense. And then, they have a good bullpen. Maybe you just add a few offense.
I don't expect Savali to be as good as he was, though.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
But I also think, they're 46 and 43. No one in the AL East has really proven they can get it done just yet. I think they might be holding on for a playoff spot.
Possibly.
I would not be surprised if you see Cleveland be sneaky buyers. Ooh. Especially when you were talking about earlier with the White Sox having a little injury bug issue. That's some time where they can gain ground in the division.
Yeah, well, who has that second wild, or who has is 3.5 back of that second wild card? It's the Mariners. So, I mean, you gain ground right there. Mariners are going to come back to earth at some point, I think. So
yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, the fact that Detroit is ahead of Minnesota is mind-boggling.
Mm-hmm. I think the Tigers have something really good going on. I mean, we just don't really see it, but
yeah,
I think they're going to be really good.
Torkelson and Riley Green are going to be tremendous players, and the fact that they already have Casey Mize and Tariq Skubal getting some innings at the major league level, crazy. And Matt Manning's still on the way. Like, they have drafted well. They have redone this franchise, and let's just clap it up for Detroit for a second, because things were looking horrible there for a minute. The team was emulating the city, and they're on the way
back. That's good. The team was emulating the city. One other team that we should probably highlight is the Oakland A's, because I think, are you in agreement with me that the it's the Astros division to lose?
Once the A's are 5 games back, yes. 3, they're still 3.5.
Fair.
And if they can do some work at the trade deadline,
that's what I was about to say. Yes, you read my mind.
They might be looking pretty good come September, late August. I don't know. The Astros are still somehow playing out of their shoes, and I think we just got to give props to Dusty Baker at this point. Like, that he's just finally found a team where he can get it done.
Yeah, but you could make the argument that the A's have the most upside when it comes to this deadline and adding than anybody. Because, I mean, there's an obvious hole at shortstop, Trevor Story. there's, you could add some depth a little bit to the pitching staff, which they seem to do or try to do. Like
They always add a reliever. So you'll see the A's add like some really nice reliever. I think ever since John Lester and Jeff Samardzija, they've gone cold feet when it comes to training for pitchers.
exactly. Which I guess I'm getting like John Gray or something.
Yeah, well, the A's, and then Chris Bassett is like sneakily one of the most consistent players in Major League Baseball, and I don't get it ever.
Yeah. So I'm plugging in my computer. Yeah, no, he's good, an all-star for sure. What happened to Frankie Montas? I mean, he looked like he was going to be a really solid 3. But
I mean, he looked like that a couple years ago, and then he got busted for steroids. So there you go.
but I guess they're happy that Sean Manaea's arrived, kind of, right? I mean that's
this is my problem with you, man. Sean Manaea never wasn't arrived. Like he's a great number 2 starter. The fact that they treat him like a number 1 is kind of tough.
I don't think he's ever arrived, to be honest with you. I don't think
Really?
he's ever been consistent with it. He's had some up and down years. I mean, he's been hurt, but I think this is Sean Manaea, saying I'm here, that type of thing. But what really hurts them is Jesus Luzardo just not. I mean, that was such a letdown for me. He was my Rookie of the Year pick in the American League. Did I even put him as my Cy Young pick? I can't remember. God, that was.
No, you did. I think that's a tough look for you.
Oh man, he's in the minor leagues now. How is he not contributing? Whatever happened? I mean, just almost.
Well, is he still hurt?
I don't know. That's a good question. I didn't really look, but
here, let's check this out. Yeah, 2-4, 687. That's tough. All right, so here's May 2nd, 10-day DL. May 27th, rehab.
So he is pitching in
May 30th activated, June 21st option. So I think he is just not pitching well enough to be at the major league level right now.
Oh, and he's got a 9.50 ERA and 6 starts in Vegas. Wow. Jesus Luzardo in his most recent start coming 2 days ago. Another rough. God, that sucks. I mean, there's still a lot there. Oh wow, he went to Major Stoneman Douglas High School. I didn't even know that. That's where that tragedy happened, the shooting at in Florida. Just a weird side note there.
Yeah.
But God, that's a bad pick on my part. But if he comes up and like even if he pitches out of the bullpen and they don't get a reliever and he's that guy out of the bullpen, that would be helpful.
Yeah, but I think their bullpen has always been solid. Yeah, Frankie Montas right now just kind of looks like a solid number 3 starter, if that. I mean, he's got like 14-11, 380 written all over him.
Yeah, I'm a little off on what the A or not. I'm moving tracks here to the east here. I'm so down on the Yankees. What happened? And I know that New York people, and you see it on the timeline all the time, they try to overhype. Yankees lose like 2 in a row and Aaron Boone's fired. But I don't even know how to talk about them because it's just such a disappointment. I mean, I know they have a winning record, but you turn on a Yankees game and it's just there's nothing there. I mean, they don't hit with runners in scoring position. Their pitching is very potent. Like there's a lot of potent in the is that the right word? I don't even know if that's a word, but there's a lot of like Jameson Taillon, Jordan Montgomery, Domingo Germán. There's a lot there that you could work with, but it just hasn't worked. And this team, I could understand why Yankees fans are frustrated. Just a bit.
I don't know. I think we knew pitching was going to be a problem for the Yankees coming into this season. I mean, Corey Kluber is just not even there right now. Luis Severino, do you think we'll ever see him on the mound again? Like, I mean, Domingo Germán coming off the domestic violence stuff, taking some time out of baseball. He was a great pitcher before, but now it's kind of meh. I mean, you just see Garrett Cole at the front of that rotation, and it's kind of like, oh, the Yankees will be fine. They'll hit their way out of it. They'll pitch well. But
He's
even their
alone.
bullpen, like David Robertson isn't there. Like the great bullpens of the past. It's okay. Yeah, here's the Yankees for me. It's two names. It's Aroldis Chapman and Garrett Cole, and you see those names, you're like, oh, Yankees will be fine. And then you see the other guys, and it's a bunch of meh. You know?
Yeah, no, 100%. I think we did a good preview. We hit all the aspects that we needed to hit, I think. We also have 3 breakout players that we think will break out. That's pretty self-explanatory. So I'll start off with my number 3. My number 3 is going to be Francisco Lindor. And I
By being just on the AL, the DL,
yeah, coming off from the DL, I think
the IL. Sorry.
the IL, yeah. Coming back from the IL, he needs to contribute. He started getting hot a little bit before he got injured, but Lindor, I don't expect, you can make the argument that he won't justify the trade in the first year and that you're going to have to look back 15 years from now. That's kind of the view that I'm kind of taking. I won't proclaim winners or losers just yet.
No, I said that as a joke.
Yeah, no. Yeah, I understand. But he started getting hot a little bit. Like in his last 10 games, he was hitting 333, and his last 28 games 250, which is way better than what he was doing the whole like first half of the year.
Yeah.
So yeah, and he's gonna need to be an X factor if the Mets really want a piece of this division. So he's my number 3. What do you have?
I got Trevor Story. I think once he gets traded, he's going to take off. He's kind of had a little down year for the Rockies. He hasn't been that same guy who's a 30-30 threat year in, year out. But once this guy gets traded and he's on a team where he's playing meaningful baseball, he's going to surge. And I think we'll see him have kind of a Troy Tulowitzki-esque September, August run. And he's going to be a big topic late in the year.
All right, my number 2 is somebody who was one of the best prospects in baseball for a while, and he got hurt. He got hurt in spring training, and the team that he's on is really banged up, as I mentioned before. Eloy Jimenez is on a rehab assignment right now, and right now in his rehab assignment, he's had like 15 at-bats in Charlotte in AAA, and he's hitting 267. Across both rehab assignments, he's hitting 318 with 1 homer, 2 RBIs. So he's, a double, 7 hits overall. He could be a major X factor. And I know I keep using the word X factor in the middle of this order for the White Sox, in dire need of, some replacement for what they lost with Yasmani Grandal and what they lost with Luis Robert and what they lost with Nick Madrigal. So Eloy Jimenez would be my guy to be a breakout guy in the second half.
Yeah, and before I give my second guy, can we just appreciate the fact that the Cubs, Theo Epstein drafted this team into a champion, and then just it all, like, what? Imagine that lineup now with Eloy Jimenez and Gleyber Torres.
Oh, man.
Crazy, and they just threw it away. But my number 2 is Casey Mize. We talked about Detroit earlier. This is one of the top pitching prospects in baseball, and I think he's finally figured it out. He's 5-5 now. ERA in the, I think it might be mid-3s, but he is going to be absolutely killing it for Detroit on this second half, and give the Detroit fans something a little exciting to look forward to next year, especially with Tariq Skubal and Matt Manning probably joining the staff full time.
So the Dodgers have played really well this year. We know that they've had some bumps and bruises, but for the most part, they've been a good team. Maybe not what we've seen from them, maybe preseason, not what we expected, I should say. And there's one guy, in my opinion, that could change the whole complexity of this Dodger team. He was at the All-Star game, but I mean, this guy is way better than even a 270 hitter. It's Mookie Betts. Mookie Betts is going to get going, and he is a catalyst for this Dodger lineup. And once he gets going, I think the entire lineup, the entire team will feed off of him. and definitely I could see him taking them on a big run coming up here.
Yeah, he's like Francisco Lindor, where when he succeeds, he just brings the energy to the clubhouse, man.
100%.
All right, so my last guy is not necessarily not a breakout, but a guy who struggled a little bit in the first half, and we were kind of like, oh man, is this guy regressing? Was he a fluke? But it's Lucas Giolito. He's figured it out. He's now above 500 with his wins and losses. ERA incredible. Already still only adding to an incredible White Sox staff, but I mean, hey, if he gets it figured out, that staff is going to be ridiculous come the playoffs. I mean, even Dylan Cease, like Carlos Rondon having a great year. Lance Lynn just signed probably a steal contract. What, 2 years, 38 mil for how he's been doing. He's like 1.99 ERA. But if Lucas Giolito figures it out, the White Sox are just going to run through the AL Central and just bring so much momentum into the playoffs, especially, as you mentioned, if Eloy Jimenez gets going when he gets back to the pro level.
And Giolito's battled like so much this year. He's made every start. He got off to a rocky start and he's lowered his ERA to 3.9, which it was up a little bit before the year, but he's
6. That's crazy. He's
yeah.
cut it in half almost.
So he's definitely hung in there for sure. We also came up with another top 3 list, and we talked a little bit about teams maybe making moves. We came up with the top 3 players, maybe under the radar players that might be traded. I'll start. I'll my number 3 is someone back with the Twins who was unbelievable last season with them as part of the rotation. And now he's not so much this year. I mean, he's been okay for the most part, but it's Kenta Maeda. Kenta Maeda could be a big piece for a team's rotation. If the Phillies want to add an arm, maybe Kenta Maeda is a good alternative. He's 33 years old. He is a free agent. He's still controllable. He's a free agent in 2024, so still a guy you would hang on to, and at a very affordable cost. 3.1 million due next year and 3.1 million due in 2023. So a guy in age 34 and 35 seasons who would be a mainstay in your rotation. And if needed, I mean, could come out of the bullpen like he did with the Dodgers for all those years. So definitely a guy I could see making an impact with another rotation.
Yeah, my first guy on the list is kind of a guy who I think would be a steal at the trade deadline. Not necessarily a guy you're going to get a good amount back for, but it's Gregory Polanco. Things haven't worked out in Pittsburgh. He was expected to do a lot better. He was expected to kind of have like that Josh Bell-esque, be a corner outfielder that could hit the ball hard, maybe hit for average, but it hasn't worked out. And he's still got some pop. He's still got some life left in him. And I think that's going to be a great pickup for any team that kind of wants to buy low and get a guy who can hit the ball out and put some runs on the board.
I like that. I definitely like that. I could see him in Yankee Stadium.
Yeah.
With that short porch in right field, that would be a nice landing spot for Gregory Polanco. My second guy is someone who would be similar a lot to Maeda in suitors. Like, I think people that would be after Maeda would also be after Zach Davies from the Cubs, who, like Kyle Hendricks, same type of pitcher, rely a lot on command and control. But that has not really helped him this year, as he's walked almost 5 guys per 9 and he struck out almost 6 guys per 9. So pretty disproportionate numbers there, but he's at a 4.37 ERA. Him and Kyle Hendricks are definitely going to help a team. Honestly, the Cubs are going to be a gold mine this trade deadline. And if teams want it, the Cubs have it. I mean, everything the Cubs, everything you might need, the Cubs have. If you want an elite bullpen arm in the back end, they have Craig Kimbrell. If you want a middle of the rotation guy, they have Davies. If you want like a number 2 or a number 1, they have Hendricks. If you want a versatile bat that can play everywhere, you have Bryant. I mean, they have everything you need. One place in Chicago could be the whole gold mine for the entire deadline. It's crazy to think.
Yeah, that is crazy. But I heard they were trying to lock up Baez and Rizzo. Do you think that happens, or are those guys? Rizzo's already locked up, but Baez, I don't think he wants to stick around for a rebuild.
Yeah, I could see definitely. I don't think Rizzo is locked up, is he? I can't remember, but
They signed him to an extension, or maybe they just avoided. I think they just avoided his last 2 arbitration years with a 2-year contract. So I think he's hitting the market soon. But
I think he stays. I think he gets a long-term agreement.
yeah,
I'm not sure about Contreras too. I mean, why
yeah,
isn't his name out there more? So definitely this team's very expendable for sure.
absolutely. All right, so my number 2 is kind of a guy I mentioned earlier, but a guy that's not really talked about that often just because he does play in Seattle, and that's Mitch Haniger. He's one of the more consistent bats when he's healthy. And yeah, he just never gets the respect he deserves, and it's kind of crazy to me. But Mitch Haniger is going to be a nice addition for any team, potentially even the Giants.
Yeah, coming home, an alumni of Archbishop Mitty High School in San Jose.
There you go.
So definitely could see that for sure. They need a right-handed bat. My number 1 is a guy who, if they weren't in the same division, would be a great fit for the White Sox, and that's Whit Merrifield. I
Yep.
mean, great fit for the White Sox. Whit Merrifield is the definition of a baseball player. Like, I mean, you look at this guy's skill set, and I'll only say this about like a handful of guys in baseball, but you look at his skill set and kind of a late bloomer coming up at age 27. He's 32 now, but has 200 hits, in 2019, 193. Just a baseball player, a good hitter, a good base runner, steals a lot of bases, leading the American League right now in steals, has played the outfield before, more of a second baseman right now. I mean, this is the guy, Whit Merrifield.
Yeah.
Why? I mean, I guess like if the argument would be, well, he's a lifetime Kansas City Royal, but was at Coors Field during the All-Star Game representing the Royals. Whit Merrifield to a contending team would be a lot of fun.
Oh no, absolutely. And he's one of those guys where like I think they kind of waited around for him to hit home runs, but he's a 4 to 5 tool guy depending on how you look at him. But my number 1 is everyone's favorite trade ship this kind of year. It's Jonathan Schoop. This guy seems to always be in trade talks come the deadline. And it's not because he's a bad player. It's because he's just a surprisingly consistent player. And I don't think he's in Detroit's long-term plans.
Yeah, Jonathan Schoop. I think any veteran that's like over the age of 30 wouldn't be in their long-term plans. And Schoop is
Yeah, so
29 and, getting up there, but still putting up some good numbers.
yeah, he's having a sneaky good year, and it's because he plays in Detroit that no one kind of realizes it. But Matt Boyd's another guy on Detroit that I think we could see get moved. I know he's hurt right now, but his name's been on the block for years now, and I think it's finally the Yankee. He'd be a nice Yankee target if they want to get a guy who can win them some games in the lower half to mid part of that rotation.
Why do the Yankees always get those fringe left-handers like James Paxton and Jay Happ? I mean, they always get those types of arms.
Well, didn't James Paxton and Jay Happ kind of work out for them come the latter part of the year?
Kind of. It's just James Paxton's never on the field ever.
Yeah.
Ever. And also Jay Happ could be a nice move if the Twins want to let go of him.
He's going to be a great mid-rotation guy for some contender.
Yeah, but Jonathan Schoop, 1 year, $4.5 million deal during the offseason.
Yep.
Awesome. And I guess it worked out for them because he's playing well for them. That was such a weird sentence, but
no, because I remember him and CJ Cron were kind of the two guys they signed last year to kind of hang around and just fill or not like journeymen guys who were there for a year just to get some trade buzz and then get moved. But
I keep thinking about that Orioles team again with Davis at first, Schoop at second. Who's at short? JJ Hardy at short, Machado at third. Hardy. That's a pretty good infield.
Yeah. No, and JJ Hardy was one of those guys who would sneakily hit 20 home runs and steal 20 bags. So
yeah. Whenever I think of JJ Hardy, I think of the ball that he hit in Baltimore that Mike Trout robbed. I think about it like that's whenever I think of JJ Hardy. I don't know. It's weird.
I think about JJ Hardy when he hit that walk-off on Boston to send Tampa Bay to the playoffs that one year.
Or was that was Evan Longoria?
No, Evan Longoria hit it out, but Boston had to lose and JJ Hardy walked off.
Oh, that's right. That was the same night. Yes. That was such an electric night of baseball.
Oh, that was awesome. That was baseball. That might have been baseball's peak. That might have been why we're all downhill from there.
No, exactly. That was crazy. There's so much hanging in the balance there. That was fun. Yeah, so we kind of went over the preview. We did the All-Star game. We did the Derby. This was definitely a fun episode. We're gonna have some more draft coverage coming up next. Some interviews coming up next. Some more banter shows coming up next as we move in.
And the deadline, of course.
Deadline. We're gonna try and figure this out. I'll make an announcement of some sort of what we decide to do. But
24 hours.
yeah, definitely want to be there for maybe those final hours, maybe final two of the deadline. So we'll try and work that out.
See the Rockies get ransacked.
Yes. Trevor Story going at literally 3:59 p.m.
Yeah,
Pacific
before we go,
time.
I just have to say Kyle Freeland sucks. I hate this guy, man.
Before we go, Kyle Freeland sucks. Yeah, just get that out there. I like to see it. All right, you could follow us on Twitter and Instagram at RizzoCast. Thank you guys for listening. More content coming up soon, and have a great day.